I hope you'll forgive me, but I'm going to get a bit philosophical now. I don't suppose this video will get too many clicks for that, but I do want it on record that I can see things on the horizon about which not many people are really aware, especially not the socialists. More of that later. I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds, and those footsteps you can hear are my dog wandering about under my feet. When people are living through a time of pivotal change, they very rarely see that's what it is. Like if you're in a forest, you can see the trees, which are not only impediments to your progress, but also could be hiding dangerous creatures, both animal and human. So, finding your way through that is all you have to worry about. You certainly can't see the shape and size of the forest itself. And without a map, you wouldn't know how big the forest is or where it ends up. It could end with pleasant farmland or a glittering city on a hill full of opportunity. Or it could suddenly stop at a cliff edge or an impassable river. And in general, we're plunged into these forests by some sort of disruptor. The disruptor we have now is, of course, X and its boss, Elon Musk. And the reason Musk is so thoroughly disliked by the legacy media is because basically they're all socialists, and socialists hate change. Yeah, you know, Starmer ran on a ticket of change. I'll find a photograph of him with his little change label. But what sort of change is he making now? It looks to me more like the old communist kill the kulaks sort of change. And we all know where that ended up, don't we? We've had disruptors before, of course. The first big one in our modern era was the Black Death. If you had the misfortune to have been born in the 1300s, and I'm just talking about England, by the way, different countries have different timelines on this. So I'll stick to England and Wales. If you had the misfortune to be born in either of those places in the 1300s, you would have seen the Black Death devastating your villages and towns. I think there's something incredible, like 2/3 of the people in the country all died. Your church would be deserted. You'd be losing your faith in the certainty of God. And then would you be lying back on your straw bed at night, the only survivor of a village full of unburied bodies, thinking, well, that's the end of the feudal system? And the dawn of a new age, the beginnings of an English mercantile economy, and the tiny, hesitant start of large-scale democratic institutions that will eventually turn kings from mafia bosses to accountable rulers. Would you be thinking that? Or would you be thinking, I have no family, I have no village, there's no structure to help me grow food, I am on my own, and the only thing to do is head for a town and find work there? Then the next disruptor, of course, was the Gutenberg printing press, which Martin Luther used to disseminate Protestantism, just like Elon Musk is using X now to disseminate the idea of free speech. And both of these men were using a modern mass media to turn over the established orthodoxies. Printing was what sparked Henry VIII's break with Rome, And after that, I don't think people understand the period of uncertainty in English history. I'm sure people nowadays don't realise what a rocky road that was. I mean, Henry was a Protestant who was really mostly a Catholic. His son Edward was a Protestant who was mostly a Lutheran religious fanatic. And then who succeeded him was Mary, his older sister, who was a Catholic and absolutely a religious fanatic about it. And then Elizabeth was a Protestant who was quite tolerant, and then it was followed by James, who was sort of a religious fanatic, and then Charles, who was more tolerant of religion but more interested in being a political dictator, which was followed by Cromwell, who was an absolute ayatollah of Puritan religious fanaticism and a dictator. During any part of those years, you could be arrested, you could lose your entire possessions, your children could be driven into penury, and you could be executed for holding beliefs that were absolutely de rigueur only months before. You know, we like to think of those times as merry England, quiet, peaceful, unchanging. Well, they weren't. So why should we expect these times now to be different? Suddenly, the effect of social media on politics has become obvious. It's been rumbling for a bit, but not like it is now. And it's just like the effect of drones on warfare now. That's going to change things in a significant way as well. And both politics and warfare are going to have to change quite a bit over the next few years. And the good news is that socialism can't keep up with that. Socialist systems are very old-fashioned. It's an old-fashioned way of thinking. Starmer thought he could do the old dictatorship communist trick of calling people far-right thugs and jailing them. Because, of course, when you lock them away, you lock their message away as well, don't you? Well, it would have worked in the 30s, or even the 50s, and perhaps to somewhat slightly less extent in the 60s, when people could mimeograph or type books and sneak them out. But definitely it's not working now, because it's as out of date as those old high-tech cog and machine and manual labour symbols you see on communist logos stuck in the 19th century. Starmer is trying it, but it's the absolute last kick of a dying system. So the question now is, how is society going to change? Because just like when the Gutenberg press was invented, you couldn't have foreseen Martin Luther publishing his 95 protestations. You couldn't foresee that. You couldn't foresee the 30 Years' War when the Catholic Church tried to re-establish its authority. You couldn't foresee that. And for sure, right now, we're in a forest and we have no map. We've never been here before. And we can't say how big this forest is or where it ends. Will we emerge from the trees to see an emerald city glittering ahead of us and full of marvellous things? Or, well, will it end up in a field full of poisonous poppies? We don't know. But what we do know is that the sort of socialism that our government is trying to pump right now is doomed to failure. That is something I really can foresee. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.